In early 2023, the head of state addressed the issues that matter most to the people of Astana: outdated engineering infrastructure, challenges in housing construction, public transportation woes, a shortage of social facilities, insufficient greenery, and, overall, the need for a more livable urban environment. The city's original master plan had anticipated a population of 1.2 million by 2030, a milestone Astana has already reached. A year later, a new master plan for the capital was unveiled, developed on the president's order. The project was spearheaded by Ruslan Zhakupov and his team at the AstanaGenPlan Design Institute. I'm Uliana Ashimova, and this is The Profile, a Silkway TV channel series where we explore not just how our lives are evolving, but also the people who are making it happen.
The development of a city must first and foremost align with its guiding principles.
What does Astana's new development master plan for 2035 look like? That's why I'm asking specifically about building heights. There's been a lot of criticism from residents about the so-called rabbit warren.
For example, while the city's overall footprint hasn't changed, it's still 79,000 hectares. We've actually increased the number of social facilities by 2 or 3 times compared to before.
So, no more houses than planned should be built.
Exactly.
What do you think about traffic jams?
There's a lot of debate on this topic.
What role does the urban center play in the AstanaGenPlan Institute today?
We have architects, dendrologists, landscape designers, our creative minds.
Is Astana a city built for pedestrians or cars?
If things stay the way they are, naturally, as parents, we're going to worry with active traffic in the area.
Because mature trees seem like a costly option.
But they provide long-term benefits for the city.
Over 170 public spaces in Astana have been reimagined this season. What's the next step? Do you have plans for the next season?
Yes, we do.
Ruslan Zhakupov is the CEO of the AstanaGenPlan Research and Design Institute. He graduated from the Eurasian National University with a degree in design. Hello, Ruslan. You've been living in Astana since the early 2000s, right? How do you feel about the city has transformed over the last 20 years?
I love it. I spent my student years here in Astana, and the city's growth has been very dynamic.
That being said, by 2022, there were plenty of concerns about Astana, its livability, development, and engineering infrastructure, to name a few. Would it be fair to say that we now have a plan for what the perfect Astana should look like?
Absolutely. At the start of 2024, we finalized a new master plan that lays out the city's vision for the future. It covers everything from roads and engineering systems to, just as importantly, social infrastructure.
Ruslan, this all really began with the president's criticism of Astana's development and its existing master plan. You spent the whole of 2023 working on a new one, and, as I understand it, you finally started listening to city's residents. How did that play out?
Public engagement, especially on this scale, was something completely new for us. In November, we held our first major public discussions right at our institute. Over 4 days, around 400 people came through, with each session focusing on a different district of the city.
And what were the people most concerned about? What kinds of things were they asking?
The biggest questions were about their neighborhoods. People always want to know what's going to happen near their homes. Will there be upgrades, more public spaces?
Okay, sounds reasonable.
They also wanted to know about new social facilities and other improvements. We even had members of the architectural community and university professors join the conversation. Transportation infrastructure was another hot topic that came up a lot.
People came to these discussions and told you, we need this and that. Do you actually listen to residents, even if they're not experts in urban planning?
Учитывали и правильно подметили, что...
Absolutely. And you're right to know that many weren't specialists, not architects, urban planners, or engineers.
Но тем не менее, те вопросы, которые их интересовало, в частности, благоустройство, либо...
But the issues they raised, especially around amenities and the placement of social facilities, were important to them. We took their feedback seriously. For example, while the city's overall footprint hasn't changed, it's still 79,000 hectares. We've actually increased the number of social facilities by 2 or 3 times compared to before.
So, in the new master plan for Astana, there are 2 to 3 times more social facilities than there were before. Are there specific standards you have to follow?
Yes, there are guidelines.
Если мы берем развитие сектора, допустим, на 10 тысяч...
Typically, for over 10,000 residents, you need at least one school for 1,200 to 2,000 students.
2 садика, по 250 мест. Ну и непосредственно...
2 kindergartens with 250 spots each, and essential services like shops and shopping centers.
Они как могут быть...
These can be integrated into residential buildings or standalone. We also plan for utilities and recreational spaces like parks and green zones.
Essentially, you're laying out zones, housing here, recreation there, parks here, and industrial areas over there. Is that right?
Exactly.
And how does that map turn into a 3D model eventually?
After finalizing the master plan, we move on to sector-specific layouts and then detailed planning projects or DPPs.
Проекты детально, как раз-таки здесь, в макете отражены, она более детально уже, как проект детально.
These detailed plans are essentially an expansion of the initial concepts. They layer in more precision from housing density and building heights to transportation networks. We define development sectors for housing, social facilities, and other infrastructure, ensuring a balanced, polycentric urban design.
So you've mapped out the roads and placed the houses, but what's the thinking behind it? How do you decide that, for instance, a school is needed here?
Ну, естественно, да. Если у нас, то есть если это селитебная зона, селитебная это жилая и гражданско-промышленная зона, гражданская зона, да, развития.
Well, naturally, if it's a residential area, it's clear where the houses should go and where we need recreational areas and schools to ensure they're easily accessible.
То есть это метод для архитектора, для проектирования города, чтобы гармонично развивать город.
It's about creating a well-rounded urban environment. After drafting the detailed planning project, we hand over the essential data for further development to the relevant authorities.
Если это будет управление транспортом, то мы выдаем уже каких параметров должны.
For example, if it's related to transportation, we specify road designs and routes. If it's a private investor with land, we provide the parameters based on the detailed planning project as baseline data.
Вот я смотрю, что вы учитываете и этажность тоже.
I see you're considering building heights too.
А как вы это...
Why is that?
Здесь в первую очередь учитывается плотность застройки.
Так.
То берется норматив от одного.
It's all about density. The standard is set at 1 hectare. For instance, if we're planning for 10,000 people, we first allocate social facilities, schools, kindergartens.
Далее для размещения этого населения делается уже объемное проектирование.
Then, depending on that, we decide whether to go with high-rises or low buildings, tower blocks or more spread-out structures.
Непосредственно кто разрабатывает у нас.
The architects, with their expertise and experience, make these calls. In our institute, we have chief architects and engineers of the project who place these structures carefully. They present their plans at technical councils and urban councils.
Я вот почему у вас так конкретно спрашиваю.
That's why I'm asking specifically about building heights. There's been a lot of criticism from residents about these high, densely packed buildings, the so-called rabbit warren, with inadequate public spaces and social amenities. Is that kind of development excluded from the new master plan?
Yes, it is excluded.
You're really confident about that?
Absolutely. The master plan and detailed planning project set the initial guidelines given to clients as basic data.
То есть больше, чем вы предусмотрели.
So, no more houses than plans should be built?
Понятно.
Не должно быть.
А вот,
Почему говорю не должно? Потому что
Exactly. When I say shouldn't, it's because the next step involves the detailed design phase, which goes through urban planning and state expertise.
экспертизу. Далее
Everything's factored in there. The master plan sets specific parameters like a certain number of housing units per hectare. For example, 15,000 or 20,000. There are established norms to adhere to.
I would like to talk about the urban center.
вроде такое модное.
It seems like such a trendy, new direction, yet it's part of the Project Institute.
Как вам это помогает? И правильно ли понимать,
How does it help you? And is it correct to understand that the abundance of parks appearing in Astana this year is due to the urban center's focus?
Да, большой вклад.
Absolutely. The urban center plays a significant role in both planning and implementation.
Там тоже собраны специалисты своего дела. Это и архитекторы, и дендрологи, и ландшафтники. То есть это
It brings together experts from various fields: architects, dendrologists, landscape designers.
в центре урбанистики. Днем и ночью они всегда на ногах, на улице, что-то замеряют.
These are creative minds working day and night, monitoring every aspect of construction and city beautification.
И благоустройство, да, города. Как вы знаете, в этом году прям большое.
This year alone, we've seen around 170 public and residential spaces landscaped.
в Астане много площадей?
Astana has many spaces paved with concrete, cobblestones, and so on, which seem completely devoid of life. Good for hosting large events, but not very comfortable for casual strolling. And that's exactly what has drawn criticism towards Astana in the past. But this year, we see these spaces transforming. How did the idea come about to plant mature trees in these spaces so they would look great? And did the idea immediately gain acceptance?
Понимание, так скажем.
Every idea has an author.
Yes.
Автор заложил, там порядка у нашей группы 15.
Our team, about 15 people at the urban center, is responsible for each part of the project.
Проекта это идея непосредственно.
Each idea is essentially the brainchild of the architect. We present it to the client, the city mayor, and then it gets implemented.
Do all ideas pass through smoothly?
Не все, потому что, в первую очередь.
Not always. We draw inspiration from global best practices, successful examples from around the world that have been tried and tested.
А как правило, с чем...
What are the common challenges you face? What is the main reason that your ideas are sometimes not accepted? Is it mainly cost-related, or do clients think that the idea isn't aesthetically pleasing enough? Even though you're professionals and you're supposed to have a good grasp on these things, and there's often a tension between clients and designers, isn't there?
It's not always straightforward. We aim to strike a balance between cost and aesthetics.
Because mature trees seem like a costly option.
They are, but they provide long-term benefits for the city.
То есть это же не просто поставили и убрали, это будет.
It's an investment in the urban fabric, not just a temporary fix.
Вклад в город.
When you walk around the city, do ideas pop into your head? Things that could be done differently here?
Возникают непосредственно фотографируем.
Absolutely. I take photos and share them with the team. We also monitor social media for interesting solutions and ideas.
Интересные решения. Потом пытаемся его интегрировать в проект.
Sometimes they might seem a bit out there, but that's part of the creative process. Not everything will stick, but that's okay.
Космос быть.
Вы рисовали идеальный город.
You're envisioning an ideal city and trying to integrate it into an existing large city. You're working with what's already there, the buildings, the public spaces.
Как вы это переосмысливаете?
How do you reimagine them? How do you find compromises? For instance, I see the current state of the railway station park and your vision for it.
You're right to note that this is the existing view. That's the railway station.
Как сейчас происходит благоустройство этого района, да? Наше видение, мы вот разработали концепцию.
The current landscaping in this area is underway. Our team at the urban center has developed a concept aimed at making the area more welcoming to people.
Если данное благоустройство дальше будет развиваться, то, естественно...
If things stay the way they are, naturally as parents, we're going to worry. With active traffic in the area, it wouldn't be safe for children to spend time there.
Спокойно можно будет пребывать.
But new project will provide a peaceful environment for relaxation. The concept focuses on enhancing greenery, improving urban green spaces and water balance.
Также и, допустим, минимальный, да, вот автотранспорт, но это не говорит о том, что там...
We're also aiming for minimal vehicle traffic. Cars won't be completely out, but we're proposing underground parking solutions to keep them out of sight. This year, we've made a point to prioritize incorporating parking facilities directly into the design of residential complexes.
That's essential, right?
Absolutely. By keeping vehicles within the buildings, we're able to create more open and accessible spaces for city residents to enjoy.
Вы сказали о том, что...
You mentioned that streets are planned out first. Streets are usually managed by the mayor's office.
Вот ширина улиц, вы ее...
Do you also determine the width of the streets? There's a lot of talk that it looks good on paper, but in reality, traffic jams have been an issue in Astana and are likely to become worse. What do you think about that?
Здесь много споров.
There's a lot of debate on this topic. When it comes to street width, they vary depending on the role of the street. Major arteries for high traffic, local streets, and those within neighborhoods.
Они максимально широкие.
The main streets are wider, designed to handle more traffic.
Здесь же немаловажную роль играет, что этот проект, он же до 1935 года, то здесь непосредственно есть и такие места, допустим, город делит река.
Since this project is aimed at 2035, we have taken into account specific bottlenecks, like bridges and rivers, that divide the city.
Если мы сейчас возьмем, к примеру, мост Тавель-Сыздык, вот он, да, вот здесь вот если размещен, то он тоже...
For instance, Тавель-Сыздык Bridge has already relieved congestion on several other bridges, such as M1, M2, and the bridge on Republic Street.
Мост на Республике. Основной трафик уже переместился. До этого же ввели...
With the recent completion of the Olodala Bridge, after the railway station, we've added another route to ease traffic.
Транспорт, как вы знаете, каждый желает ездить на своем личном транспорте, но мы, когда разрабатывали генеральный план, мы также...
We also factored in alternative transport options like rail system, including light rail transit, LRT, metro, and bus rapid transit, BRT.
Ну и БРТ.
Астана находится в достаточно суровом климате. Зима у нас, конечно...
Astana has quite a harsh climate. Our winters are tough and long. How do you take aesthetics into account in urban planning and your work? How do you make the city beautiful, not just for those 3 months of summer and a little bit of September when everything is golden, but also for those harsh months with snow-covered streets, grayness, and chemical substances?
Ну, разные есть же методы украшения города. Если, допустим, летом это...
There are different ways to beautify the city. In the summer, we focus on greenery, flowers, and perennial shrubs.
Если вы обратили внимание, в этом году больше акцент сделали уже на многолетние цветы и растения.
This year, we've been placing a greater emphasis on perennials. For the winter month, it's all about decorations, holiday lights, garlands, warm, inviting tones that make the city more visually pleasing.
Let's talk about the future plans. This year has been quite active in terms of Astana's landscaping efforts. Do you have plans for the next season?
Есть планы.
Yes, we do. There are around 180 public and residential spaces planned for next year. We're keeping up the momentum.
Can you name some of the major projects?
Some of the big ones include the sports promenade where the triathlon park is located. If you've seen it, they've already started renovating the promenade around the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation.
Теперь в планах в следующем году ближе подойти.
Next year they plan to extend it towards Ramstor and the bridge near Ataturk Park. The development of the promenade is a key priority. We're also continuing Mangalik Yel. We're planning to spruce up areas under the LRT tracks too.
How do you intend to do that, since it's a new, high-tech area?
Над этим сейчас работает. Я думаю, в ближайшее время.
They're working on it now. I think there will be public consultations soon. There's also a major area west of Turan that's on the government's radar. The concept phase is nearly complete.
После чего будут уже приступать к реализации общественных пространств.
Once that's done, they'll move ahead with creating public spaces. There's also the Green Line alley, which we aim to make greener, more accessible and more comfortable for residents, like the alley on Manjuldak.
Не могу не спросить про экопарк. Мы с вами на генеральном плане видели прям такой большой зеленый.
I can't help but ask you about the eco park. We saw a big green water area on the master plan. The residents of that newly developing neighborhood are eagerly waiting for it. Do you, as designers, have an idea about the timeline for this project? The images, including those you showed during the presentation of the new master plan, look great, but it would be nice to actually see them in real photos instead of just 3D visualizations.
3D-визуализации.
The master plan includes designated recreational areas, both large and small lake. Right now, the Environmental Management Department is the administrator of the program, and they've received the land allocation. They're handling the detailed project design. The visual images you're hoping to see will be available once the design work is completed. Research is currently underway, including soil studies and water assessments. These require thorough analysis. The master plan already lays out the locations and allocations. The detailed planning will come next.
Astana currently has a master plan up to 2035. What does this mean for developers, for the city administration, and for those who build roads? Is it a strict guideline that everyone follows, or is there some flexibility? Perhaps a bit more here, a bit less there? Is it just a concept or a strict rule? How much does the current Astana, with its smooth, beautiful streets, bridges, wide avenues, and plenty of green areas, has to adhere to this vision?
The master plan is the city's primary strategic document for development. It applies not only to the capital Astana, but to any urban area. Everything should progress according to the master plan, detailed planning projects and construction projects.
Поэтому развитие города в первую очередь должно быть согласно генплану. Почему? Потому что генплан предусматривает не только строительство социальных объектов и жилищного строительства.
The city's development must align closely with the master plan because it encompasses not just residential construction and social facilities, but also critical infrastructure like clean sewage systems, thermal power stations, and water management.
Водоотведение.
It's all about making sure that the city functions well as a whole.
And this is also reflected in the master plan.
Absolutely.
Если здесь эти объекты не видны, они же у нас под землей, эта инфраструктура находится подземной.
The infrastructure, like underground utilities, is part of the master plan.
Это направление тоже предусмотрено проектом генплана. Допустим, вот здесь вот, если показать этот флажок.
For instance, in this section marked with a flag, there's a planned gas thermal station.
Фактически там первая мощность уже построена.
The first phase of this project is already up and running. This kind of development provides a boost to areas like the southern part of the city, the Telman district, and along the Nura-Yesil canal. It's about placing key facilities to ensure that these areas have the necessary services and heating.
Do you have a favorite area in Astana?
Not really. I appreciate all areas for their unique qualities.
Well, where do you like to spend time with your loved ones?
I enjoy spending time in the historical districts like Manzhuldak Alley, which is currently undergoing active development.
И я думаю, что в ближайшее время будет один из таких уникальных районов.
I think it will become one of the most charming areas in Astana, known not only for its architectural appeal, but also for being a comfortable and pleasant place to be.
Пребывания.